Bradford Bulls are one of the most successful teams in English Rugby League history. The team formerly known as Bradford Northern enjoyed the bulk of their success at the start of the Super League, where they won 4 titles, 3 Challenge Cups and 3 World Cup challenges. I spoke to the man in charge of them for a large part of their successful years.
Said this before and elsewhere. I thought the Bradford Bulls in that period, from 98 to 97 to 2006, 7, 8, and 9 was an iconic place to be. It had a lot of reverence in the rugby community as being one of the biggest and probably successful rugby clubs in the world. It used to be in England, only Wigan and St Helens and perhaps Leeds had that kind of traction around the world. But if you mentioned the Bradford Bulls, everybody seemed to know about them. So it was a worldwide story and a worldwide phenomena that had happened. From 96 onwards, the way the game changed in Bradford and the pre-match entertainment, the halftime stuff, the increase in the crowds and the sheer joy that was to behold in the stadium and things on game day was what I think Super League wanted to portray.
With the dominance Bradford had in the early 2000s, it created more enjoyment for the fans as well as the added pressure to keep delivering.
We virtually booked to go to the grand final every year, expecting to be there, and we were most of the time. We had some fantastic performances. We had some slightly disappointing performances, probably a bit earlier when we got robbed by St Helens and what have you. But on the whole, we were the number 1 team in the Super League and basically were dominating the game at that time. Triple champions and all that sort of thing, winning all the competitions. If we didn't get to one final or grand final or Challenge Cup final, it was it wasn't a good year, but virtually every year they did.
Now the moment that he has been waiting for. Richard Caborn hands in the trophy, and the Bradford Bulls are champions of the world.
2004 was during the peak of the side's success. After a near-perfect 2003, the side booked themselves a chance to prove they are the best club team in the world. With their excellence on show, they beat the Penrith Panthers, the NRL champions at the time, 22-4 to assert their dominance across the rugby league world.
We were the underdogs and it was at Huddersfield Giants and it was a superb occasion and we came out victors. I think Logan Swan clutched a ball from the air to score a try right at the death and we got over the line. We also played quite well in those World Club challenges.
There were many factors supporting why the Bradford Bulls couldn't stop winning, from coaching staff to the environment around the club, but none more important than the recruitment and use of players they had available to them.
As a football coach, and you try to recruit the best you possibly can. So even then, with the salary cap and the vagaries of the salary cap, it was important that we got bang for buck and we got the best overseas people to coincide with the fact that the club had invested heavily in the academy and reserve structure and bringing their own players through. And at the same time in that era, we got through 6 or 7, 8 world-class players from our own development, which was key to the success.
Despite having arguably the best start to the Super League out of any club, disaster struck in 2014. After financial issues and impending liquidations, the Bulls were relegated from the Super League. This was the first time in 40 years that they dropped from the top division, sending shockwaves through the whole rugby league community.
Bradford Bulls were responsible for its own demise, if you like. The amount of players that they let go, quality, young players that went on to be international players, and they were replacing them with players that were far past their best years, overseas players that were far past their best years, and when they were letting young up-and-coming players like Ryan Atkins, Brett Ferris, Stuart Reardon, Chris Bridge, and so on, myself, Jim Peacock, Rob Parker, You know, they're letting let a bunch of players go that could have been the future of the club for the next 5 to 10 years.
With the apparent issues and rumours around the club, the relegation provided room for speculation from fans as to what the biggest factors were for the Bulls' downfall. The drop was a huge disappointment for anyone involved in the club, but none more than those who followed Bradford week in and week out.
An absolute nightmare, because you didn't know whether that was it. I mean, you were actually considering whether will the club exist. We'd all put money in, had collections, done everything that they possibly could to try and keep it going. But considering that the thing had slid downhill so quickly when they'd made some monumental mistakes, Yestin Harris being the biggest of it, which nobody checked the contract and they got screwed over. And it just can't believe we actually had a solicitor in charge of the club who didn't check a contract.
This wasn't the end of the club's misfortune, as they faced yet another liquidation in 2017, which resulted in a relegation to League One, where they were able to bounce straight back up to the Championship. Leon Price was involved in that 2017 squad as he returned to the club before retiring later in the season.
We were a club in dire straits. I went straight into administration when I came back in 2017. I should have retired myself probably a year or so before that, but your body, sometimes your head's telling you things that your body can't do. And it was a mess, wasn't it? It was a complete and utter mess.
This brings us to now, 2024, where the side are hoping their luck has changed. With the club doing a lot of work to try and improve the experience for the fans, they have begun to work alongside the community to try and make it a lot more accessible for anyone trying to get involved in the sport.
The Bulls have always been a big part of the culture in Bradford. In such a diverse city that often faces scrutiny for its friendliness, the club provides an opportunity for people to come together and share similar interests. However, with that being lost due to the relegations, it has been important for the West Yorkshire side to reintroduce the rugby league culture.
Bradford's a very up and down city, although it is obviously very diverse in many ways. It can also bring different opinions to the city. Bulls brings a community together all over Bradford in order for people to feel welcome and that they can be involved. It has also got teams for vulnerable people, such as people with disabilities and other needs. So this makes them feel like they can be involved in things that other people are. And it is very inclusive at the Bulls, which also can mean that fans enjoy watching as they can see everyone's abilities.
There have been many former players and coaches that are hoping to see an improvement with the club, with the dream of the Super League being shared. However, there are still issues that the club are facing as a result of the last 10 years.
So they've become financially stable. Because that's the main thing, is that they find some stability, and it's just about it'll be a long, slow process. And I think once they start winning consistently and being involved in big games, the fans can come back. And the stadium looks a state with the speedway back there. It looks dreadful with all the brown shale and muck all over the place. So the stadium needs a bit of help.
The issues with Odsal Stadium began in 2012 when they sold the stadium to the RFL in a 7-figure deal as the governing body recovered a loan it made to the Bradford Bulls. This creates a greater issue for the club, who were already struggling as they had to pay the RFL to play at their home ground. This proved to be too much, as in August 2019 they were forced to move to Dewsbury Rams Stadium, where they shared the facilities in a bid to free up more money. However, with the aim always being to get back to Odsal Stadium, they returned in May 2021, but under conditions that meant the old speedway track was brought back to the ground. This meant that the already run-down stadium became more of an eyesore for those who attend, as well as the pitch being the smallest in the league. For many of Bulls fans and followers, the hope is they can make Odsal Stadium what it once was, a unique ground full of atmosphere. With that in mind, the side are now looking forward with the opportunity to push on and challenge for promotion back to the Super League.
I'd rather use the expression, let's build something new, that's new in its own right, and Bradford Bulls of 2020-24, and make the most of what that is and how much fun you can have there. Because I'll tell you what, those halcyon 10 years, they'll take some replicating in professional sport anywhere, in football, in rugby union, in basketball. You have a look, there hasn't been many phenomena that was as the Bradford Bulls were.
The fans are also excited by the prospect of some success, with the club taking steps in the right direction.
I hope this season we can get to Wembley in the 1895 Cup just to show people what Bradford Bulls are all about. and we can get back to how we used to be back in the day. I also hope to get into the playoffs to have that fighting chance to be able to go back up to Super League.
So there lies the question. Is this it for the club, or are the Bradford Bulls destined to be great once again?